Hi everyone, welcome back to Nutrition Made Simple, a series that we created that takes a look at ideas surrounding natural health topics, and then we break them down into easy to understand and actionable steps. I'm joined again today by Ed Jones. He's the founder and owner of Nutrition World. And this month we've been taking a look at some of our favorite herbs and botanicals. And so far we've done olive leaf extract, amla, berberine, all three of which are incredibly powerful nutrients. But this week we're diverting just a little bit, and we're going to be talking about something called Boswellia, otherwise known as Indian frankincense. Now this one is, again, a complete powerhouse when you start looking at the research, and it is thoroughly researched, we can assure you. Its main claim to fame is probably as an anti-inflammatory, and we'll look at that in just a moment, but there are a lot of other health benefits that can be had from this single nutrient. So, Ed, to get us started, what is it about Boswellia that makes you excited about it?
Well, thank you, Brian. And yes, I am excited about it because it probably does a type of mechanism of pain reduction that nothing else in the botanical world and almost nothing in the pharmaceutical world does. If you keep in mind how pain happens, it's actually felt, or it maybe thought you feel it in your knee, but it's actually a feedback system between the knee and going through the spinal cord and to the brain. And it's sending a message of be careful, because in nature, if we didn't have a fear mechanism or pain, we would end up chopping our fingers off and not feeling it or doing really bad things to ourselves. So it's a wonderful natural system to protect us. But, you know, Father Time's not the kindest to many of us as we age, and chronic inflammation can create chronic pain, right. And it's not pleasant to live with. I've had a little bit of off and on with my hip, as some people see me hobbling around. It really comes from overuse in the gym more than anything else, probably. So I resort to, most of the time, using things like Boswellian and other natural remedies. We have to keep in mind that 80% of the world still uses botanical medicines. I actually thought it was 70%, but when I looked it up on PubMed, it's 80%. Why? Because it's effective, it's safe, and it's less expensive than drugs. The thing is that no traditional healthcare people today are trained in any of the botanical medicines. In fact, they're told not to do any recommendations. So we need to find those people who understand botanical medicine if you want to add this to your protocol of life. Now, one thing I talk about, and I have for 20 years, is that chronic inflammation is at the root of most of our diseases that we kind of dread as we age. Everything from arthritis to plaque in the arteries to memory loss, it has to do with chronic inflammation. And Boswellian is one of the powerhouses to help lessen that. And without getting into too much detail, when you take a drug, like, let's say, a Motrin or an aspirin, it's trying to inhibit one of the compounds called COX-2 or cyclooxygenase. That's the messaging system that's kind of sending this pain message to the brain that's then making you feel more painful. Well, there's another pathway that it goes through, and that pathway is the 5-LOX pathway, 5-lipoxygenase pathway. When you combine something that slows down a COX-2 and a 5-LOX, you got a dynamic duo like Batman and Robin. And, I told you, Brian, right before we started this, I spent my whole life studying these wonderful natural remedies, and yet when I do something special like this and I dig into it just for keeping it on the front of my mind, I get reinvigorated, and I'm going to up my dose of Boswellian starting after this little podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned pain and arthritis. Is that kind of what this is really known for and what most people use it for?
People use it around the world for a variety of health issues, but the majority of people in this country are turning to Boswellian for chronic pain, not acute pain. What is acute pain? Of course, that's when you stub your toe and you're hurting right now. Those are easier to fix sometimes, and they, generally go away quickly. Chronic is when you're waking up with it every day for more than a month. And the Boswellian, with maybe some other things too, but Boswellian by itself can be very, very effective at lowering this threshold of pain and It doesn't dig holes in your stomach lining.
Okay.
That's where we want to try to do the least amount of drugs, because they are effective, but they also make you bleed every single time you take one of these drugs. And Boswellian does not do that.
Yeah, and that's awesome. So beyond your general pain and inflammation, what are some of the other benefits of Boswellia that people might be interested in?
Well, first off, anytime you lower chronic inflammation, and I'm a big fan of people past 40 or 50 getting a test called high sensitivity C-reactive protein in blood work. It's rarely done at physicals. You may have to come here to Nutrition World on any Tuesday or the last Friday of the month and order that test. It's very inexpensive. That's what's going to show how much inflammation you generally have. And inflammation doesn't always mean pain. So we want to lower these inflammatory factors so that the body doesn't get injured with time, and Boswellian is one of those that do that. Now, some of the studies on Boswellian, which was very interesting, and I speak to people every day about this who have nerve pain. Anyone who's had nerve pain understands what I'm about to say. It's a whole different animal. Joint pain, bone pain, tendon pain, all those are not pleasant, but a nerve pain can be devastating because many drugs do not work on nerve pain unless they're very toxic, like opiates. And yet some people have to use those because it's disabling to have nerve pain. Everything from shingles down the list can be nerve pain. Well, guess what? Boswellian has a great response to nerve pain, and curcumin doesn't. Many of the things we sell botanically don't, but Boswellian does. So it's one of a kind, Brian.
Okay. And that's going to lead me right into my next question, because obviously turmeric and curcumin are very popular in the pain and inflammation category. So what are the key differences between Boswellia and turmeric?
Well, the key difference is the pathways that they are representing and trying to control, which are the COX-2 or the 5 LOX. Those are the two methods that your body uses to produce pain sensations. You're not going to get any 5 LOX out of curcumin, but also with Boswellian, you're not going to get any the COX-2. So it's a perfect, like I said, partnership. And so the perfect partnership. And so we want to, if you can't get results from what you're doing with whatever herbal medicine or botanicals, then add Boswellian. And the thing is, it's a $700 billion industry is pain treatment, and over 100 million people have chronic pain every single day in this country. And we can do a lot for these people without hurting them with a lot of regular drugs that can be very, very damaging to kidneys and gut linings.
And what about the combination? I mean, obviously, I'm assuming it's safe to take Boswellia and turmeric together. Is that kind of like the dynamic duo that you were talking about?
Absolutely. And, taking curcumin's fine, but if you're not getting the results, add Boswellian to it. It needs to have on the label the active ingredient from that herb is AKBA. That's the initials for it. It's too long of a word to say, but look on the back of a box if you're not getting it from us, AKBA. You have to be cautious with brands. It is key. I've seen so many curcumin and Boswellians that they're not going to work because they're produced wrong. It is not utilizing the herbal compounds that are absorbable. They're not adding things that help you utilize it. The devil's in the details of so many things in botanical medicine. Vitamins are a little different. We can talk differently about that, but herbs have to be grown right, harvested correctly, produced in the right method. They're very sensitive to degradation with heat and chemicals, storage, and we vet everything. We are so transparent or demand transparency within companies. Back before all the lockdowns happened, we traveled to many of these companies, all the way to Canada, to Texas, to places. We wanted to see these factories. We wanted to see how they produce. And a couple times we actually came back and we weren't real happy. So we cut back on a couple of brands. Right. So you can trust us totally. We are the gatekeepers, and we continue to do this. We just do it from a distance instead of traveling right now.
And lastly, let's talk about amounts. What, as far as an amount of serving or milligrams per serving, what should people be looking for?
Well, every brand may be different, and I can't answer that directly because, again, it has to do with the active ingredient of AKBA. What I would recommend is, one is it has to have that extract name on it, one, and two is honestly, the dosing on the box is kind of like the dosing of aspirin at a drugstore. It says take 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Well, there's people who need 4 a day of aspirin. It's all about results. If I take an herbal recommendation off a bottle and it says take 1 twice a day, I'll do that for a week. But if I need more results, I'm very confident with what I know that we can double the amount of what's on the label. Now, again, if you're being treated for medical conditions, ask your doctor about these things.
Absolutely.
But there's a great margin of safety with these. And the recommendation on the bottle is for a normal 170-pound man for maintenance. Sometimes maintenance is fine, but sometimes I need therapeutic.
Right.
Therapeutic is 1 level up. Generally, that's doubling the dose on the box.
All right. Well, that's good information to know. That's going to wrap it for this week, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, if you like this, be sure to like and subscribe so you can have access to more content just like this every single week. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Nutrition Made Simple. Take care.
Thank you. Stay strong.